begin our city council meeting for April 6th. And if everyone would please stand, I'm going to give an invocation. Most gracious Heavenly Father, God, we thank you so much for today. We thank you for the grace that we have in Jesus Christ. Lord, I just pray that today, as we come together, that God, you would bless this city council meeting, that you would bless this city, Lord, as we look to lead it. God, help us and give us wisdom and understanding as we look to make decisions for our citizens. Lord, I pray that God, you would be with our citizens, that you would bless them, especially as sometimes times are tough. Lord, I pray that you would give us comfort, bless us in our hands as we keep our hands on the plow and just keep working. And so I pray for this council in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Miss Valerie, may we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Box.
Here.
Councilman Foley.
Here.
Councilman Hartley. Councilman Morgan.
Here.
And Mayor Peters.
Here. Okay, moving on to number 5, proclamation declaring April 30th, 2026 as a National Adopt a Shelter Pet Day. Miss Lorian LaDonna, would you please step forward? I would just like to say first, before we, y'all come right here, please. Before we read, just what a work that, y'all do for taking care of the animals in this area. Y'all have just led the way, and so we are just so thankful for all the hard work that you do. So it's really a fantastic job that y'all are doing to help with the animals in the shelter and just take y'all do it and finding them a home. And so I'm excited for this proclamation, and so I just want to read this. That this is a proclamation to add the National Adopt a Shelter Pet Day is recognized annually on April 30th to raise awareness about the thousands of animals in shelters across the country in need of a loving home. And animal shelters play a vital role in protecting the health, safety, welfare of both animals and the community. And adopting a shelter pet not only saves the life of an animal in need, but also enriches the lives of individuals and families by providing companionship, loyalty, and joy. And the city of Eufaula is proud to partner with Paws and Claws. It's a dedicated volunteer organization whose time, compassion, and commitment are essential to the success of the city's animal shelter. And through their efforts, Paws and Claws has helped rehome nearly 100 dogs from the animal shelter, providing them with safe, loving homes and a second chance. And the efforts of volunteers, foster families, and community supporters help ensure that animals receive proper care, socialization, and opportunities for adoption, and continued community involvement and volunteer support are critical to sustaining and expanding these efforts. Now, therefore, as the mayor of the city of Eufaula, I hereby issue this proclamation declaring April 30th, 2026 as National Adopt a Shelter Pet Day in the city of Eufaula, and encourage all residents to consider adopting a shelter pet and to support local animal welfare efforts through volunteering, fostering, and other means of service. Hey, thank you so much. Oh, absolutely.
It is not just about us, it's about volunteers.
Absolutely.
You're a volunteer, sorry. You are a volunteer.
You get a shot.
Okay, we're gonna scoot along and go this way so I can get it.
Enough by you.
Okay, I'm ready. Got it, 1, 2, wanna take a couple? Alrighty.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
John.
Let me sign this here for you.
I expect all of y'all to adopt a pet.
Yes.
But you already got 5.
Yeah.
Stop it. Stop. You don't have 5 already.
Stop.
And we just want to say again, thank you so much for all that y'all do. We do appreciate it very much.
We appreciate you guys.
All right. Now moving on to the consent agenda. Line item number 6, approval of minutes. A, regular meeting March 2nd, 2026, special meeting March 19th, 2026, special meeting March 27th, 2026. Line item number 7, approval of February 2026 treasurer's report. Number 8, approval of March 2026 payroll figures for the general fund in the amount of $116,074.40. Receipt number 9, receipt of March 2026 claims, City of Eufaula. Line item number 10, approval of collective bargaining agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge number 207 for fiscal year 2026 through 2027. Line item number 11, approval of memorandum of agreement with the Oklahoma Department of Human Services exercising annual renewal of lease for 25 Hospital Drive. And I am going to pull line item number 12, and we will discuss that on the individual items for consideration.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I would second.
Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
Counselor Felly.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes. Okay, that passes. Now moving on to line item number 12, approval of memorandum of agreement with the City of Chakotah for dispatch services and authorize the city manager to sign. Mr. Jacob.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We are just still fine tuning some details, so we would just ask council to defer this item.
So make a motion to defer. Okay. Do I hear a motion to defer?
I make a motion to defer item 12.
A second.
Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
Counselor Felly.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes. Okay. Moving on to line item number 13, discussion and presentation by Eastern Oklahoma Development District about grant writing and administrative services. Mr. Jacob.
Yes, he was hiding. Mr. Mayor and council, the city is going to be working with Eastern Oklahoma Development District to help us with grant writing services and grant administration services. Their executive director, Scott Harding, is here to present on that, and I'd like to invite him up.
How's everybody doing tonight?
We're doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great. Pretty nice day out there today.
Beautiful.
As I said, my name is Scott Harding. I'm the executive director at Eastern Oklahoma Development District. We go by different names, but we generally refer to ourselves as a council of government. We cover 7 counties, mostly in our area, rural communities. This whole subject of one of the things that we do a lot of, we work with City of Eufaula on many different programs, everything from the Senior Nutrition Center to the annual REAP grant. We've worked on CDBG grants before. What this is kind of an extra thing that we've, a couple years ago, I've been the executive director for a little over 2 years now. And right after I started, we just seemed like every day we're getting calls from our communities, like wanting to know about different grants and wanting us to look at different grants. And quite honestly, we really did not have the capacity at that time. We had the capacity to do the things that we were doing, like the REAP grants and the CDBGs, and we also work with the EDA on economic development grants as well. But we just didn't have a lot of added capacity, and we did some as much as we could, but we saw that there was such a need there that we kind of looked at putting together an agreement where, and I assume that you guys probably have a copy of that or whatever. Okay. And essentially what we do is we commit to doing the kind of the research and the digging in and finding out what kind of funding opportunities are out there. Some of them we're familiar with, some of them, quite honestly, there's there's so many different ones out there, and sometimes they even come up with something new. So I can't sit here and tell you that we're experts on all of them, but we've worked on a wide variety of them. And so we're pretty familiar with kind of the grant research process. And so we offer that as a service as part of the agreement, and then as well as submitting up to, within a year, submitting up to 5 applications, and then doing a actual administration on up to 3. We feel like we do that at a, we've kind of looked at some other contracts, what some of the other organizations do. We feel like we're able to do that at quite a discount for our communities. I think the 2 big points of value is that, one, the research, because I tell you, you can start to, you start looking for grant funding opportunities, and you can really squirrel off and go down rabbit holes and never get back out again. And so we have some folks that do that on a pretty regular basis. And then also, as part of our agreement, we agree to come out once a quarter, or at least once every 3 months, and just kind of do a quick presentation with the council and let you know where we're at and what we're working on, and if we're headed in the right direction. If not, we'll, correct and go the direction that the council wants us to go to. One of the things that we have, and I'm not sure, 100% sure if it's in this agreement, we've kind of tweaked this as we have worked with some other communities, but one of the things is we try to make sure we have one kind of contact person. In this case, it would probably most likely be Jacob that kind of is going to lead. We're going to get, consent or permission, essentially authorization to, go after, whatever grants or applications that we go after, just so we make sure that we're, go in the direction that the council wants us to go in. But we also do a couple other communities that we've worked with. We'll go out, essentially kind of do some prep work and meet with some of the department heads and whoever in the community or in the administration, just find out, okay, exactly what the priorities are, and then just go from there and start working on those grants.
Sounds great.
Be happy to answer any questions that anybody might have. Or
Have you been in contact with, like, our actions? Do we take action on this one?
This is a non-action item.
Okay, that's what I was-
The contract will be $15,000 a year, so it's well within the city manager's authority. But in part because he's going to be coming, or a member of EODD will be coming hopefully on a quarterly basis. I just wanted council to be familiar with the process and
Gotcha.
and know staff efforts to continue pursuing grants.
That's fantastic.
So my question would be, did I hear you say that you would be attempting to file for at least 5 grants within that year? Is
yes, up to 5.
that
Yes.
Up to 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes there's some limitations on, depending on what what your priorities are. Also, I'm not sure if we have it in there. If, you get into some grants, they vary in complexity. If we, get into something that's pretty complex and is a larger amount, we may need to talk about that. But the nice thing, and I found that some other communities have appreciated this, is, and so this is our like home turf, this is where we operate in our 7 counties. And we have a lot of skin in the game, and we've spent a lot of years. I know a lot of people don't know this, but our organization has been around for 50, I think next year will be 60. So 59 years that we've been in existence. We work really hard to build those relationships. We're not going to do anything to compromise that. However, if we get into this thing and somebody decides that, hey, this is not going the direction we want it to go, there's a 30-day clause. You give us a notice and we just end it there, and whatever accrued cost to that point. I don't ever foresee that happening because, we've got too much skin in the game. We're not going to burn any bridges. We're going to do the best we can. Now, one of the things that have kind of brought this about is we've had some other communities that have used private consultants and other organizations, and sometimes they don't always get the results they're looking for. In fact, there's been a few times that it's been chaos. So,
So that 15,000 would be in lieu of percentages
Right.
on grants?
Yes.
That would be just the price.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I don't think there's any other questions. Hey,
Okay.
We look forward to the process.
Yeah.
Thank you
All
very much.
right, great. Appreciate it. You guys have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, so no action on line item number 13. So moving on to 14, discussion, consideration, and possible action to issue preliminary approval, conditional preliminary approval, final approval, or to disapprove the subdivision application and proposed plat for the division of a 6-acre lot into 2 lots, parentheses, 2 acres and 4 acres, at the address currently known as 508 Coon Creek Road. Mr. Jacob.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll ask the city's planning technician, Julie Musgraves, to come up and present the item.
Evening, council.
Hi.
Well, Mr. Spina submitted an application to do the subdivision of his 6-acre lot, he respectively 2 and 4 acres. He is requesting the split because he is wanting to build a single-family resident on each lot, and our code does not allow that at this time. His son currently is building a house on the 4-acre lot, so he will be building his on the 2-acre. Right now, the 6-acre parcel is zoned agricultural, and the minimum lot size for agriculture is 2 acres, so there won't be any zoning changes required. We have not received any formal or any informal protest on this from any of the neighbors or the public. It was presented to the Planning and Zoning Council on March 16th. During the public hearing, there were no members from the public besides the applicant present. By roll call vote, the commission voted 3-0, 2 of the members were absent, to recommend that the city council approve the subdivision as presented, including final approval for the subdivision application and the proposed plat. Staff also recommends the approval of the subdivision application, including approval as the final plat, finding that all requirements for agricultural zoning has been met.
Julie, I just have one question. Why does our code not currently allow him to build another residence there?
Because it says 1 single-family dwelling per lot of record.
Okay.
And Mr. Spina is here if you wish to ask any
Hello.
questions too.
I don't see
I
a
don't have
problem
any,
with it. I
no.
was just curious why we were having to get an exception.
Because it specifically states it,
Yeah,
sadly.
okay.
I'll make the motion to approve the final approval for the application as stated from 6-acre lot into 2 lots, 2 acres and 4 acres for a single family residence.
I'll second that.
Counselor Phillips.
Yes.
Counselor Felon.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Yes. Congratulations.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that passes. Moving on to number 15, discussion, consideration, possible action on the request for a Eufaula Ironheads monument sign in Posey Park. Mr. Jacob.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I don't see Mr. Haltom here, but the memo was pretty straightforward. So essentially, the current sign is 8 foot by 8 foot. Mr. Haltom's request is to enlarge it to 8 foot high by 12 foot wide. It allows for the pictures to be larger and for the text to be larger, essentially much more visible for driving by and easier to read. So just improving the entryway to Eufaula. The last time this was addressed, it was brought to the council for consideration. So since we're addressing it again, it's being brought back to council. Happy to answer any questions.
This is at no cost to the city, correct?
Correct. There may be a little staff time. I believe we assist with some of the framework and whatnot, but we're happy to do that.
Is this the Alumni Association that's heading this up or the Quarterback Club? Do you
I
know?
believe it is, but I don't want to speak out of turn.
Okay. I was just curious how they chose our athletes, because we do have some brand new like wrestling national champions from Eufaula just like last month that could go on there. It's a pretty big deal. Just curious about that.
Yeah.
Other than that, I approve.
The size of the sign is pretty large. It's not going to be blocking anything. I mean, where we'll be putting it is going to be
I don't think so. And I went out last Thursday and stood out there. And it's only going to add 2 feet to each side of it. So it's relatively small with how it sits off the roadway. So I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, so we'll elect Tisha to go talk to Rodney to add another. So I'll put that in my motion as I approve it. So I make the motion to approve.
A second.
Councilor Dobbs.
Yes.
Councilor Felon.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Mayor Hill.
Yes. Okay, that passes. Okay, moving on to number 16, discussion and presentation of the proposed budget for fiscal year 2026 through 2027. Mr. J.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We are flying through the agenda tonight. So let's see if it'll work for us. Yay, slight delay. Guiding the budget for this year was the council's 3-year priorities: road improvements, business attraction, and growth-oriented vision. Also guiding that was, of course, Oklahoma Constitution, state statutes, and the budgeting and financial policies that council adopted last April. There are 3 main types of revenue that the city gets. That's recurring, which is often considered sales tax, use tax, licenses and permit fees. Then you have periodic, which is the REAP grants that we may or may not get every year. Code enforcement liens, which come in as people sell their properties or pay down on them. And then one-time revenues, which is when the city decides to draw down on fund balance, obtain loans from OWRB, sell property. We always like to pull up this slide to remind the public and council that cities are unique in Oklahoma in that they rely almost entirely on sales tax and use tax, whereas the other governmental entities in the state have a portfolio of revenue sources. When people think of the city of Eufaula, there's actually 3 primary legal entities that make up that. The first one is the city of Eufaula. Within that's the general fund, airport fund, and a collection of other funds. Then you have the Eufaula Public Works Authority, which has the fund named after it. The meter fund, which is dedicated to holding all the meter deposits that the city collects and can only be used to keep those in reserve. And another fund that is used to maintain the loan proceeds and grant proceeds that the city receives. And then finally, the Economic Development Authority, which is used for the portion of hotel motel tax that comes into the city. This is a complex process of the fund transfers. Essentially, it's important to remember that the city pledges 100% of its sales tax and use tax to its water and sewer debt and the city hall loan, which means that when sales and use tax comes into the general fund, it gets recorded there as revenue, then it gets transferred out as an expenditure into the Eufaula Public Works Authority. It's recorded there as a revenue, and a small portion stays there. Then it is transferred out as an expenditure, and then it gets recorded back in the general fund as a revenue, as a transfer in. So it gets counted as revenue about 2.5 times. The reason that's important is if you just look at our budget in a quick skim through, it looks like we have a lot more money than we do. That's why here we pull that pass-through transfers out. In reality, revenue looks like 4.3 million, primarily made up of taxes, sales tax, use tax, 89% for the general fund, followed by miscellaneous and fines and forfeitures. Expenditures are going to match that at 4.3 million. We're going to spend what we bring in. Primary expense is no surprise for any municipality. We have a full-time police department, comes in at 35%. If we had a full-time fire department, it would be right up there. Second up is general government. That includes the city's Insurance, which is general liability, auto, and property. It also includes professional services, which is our auditor, legal, and other engineering services and whatnot. This is a quick breakdown of what I was explaining about the transfer process. We start with 1.5 million of fund balance. We bring in revenues of 4.3 million. We record transfers in of 3.1. In total, it looks like we have 7.4 million. We really don't. We have about 5.8 million. But in total appropriations, we have 8.9. Then it shows the appropriations for the year, 3.8, transfers out, 3.5, total appropriations, 7.4. At the end of the day, we are running a clean budget. We start with 1.5 million, end with 1.5 million for the general fund. That puts us right at 19% of our operating reserve, which is in compliance with the budgeting policy. Eufaula Public Works Authority, pretty similar, 3.2 million. Again, we're excluding the pass-through transfers and also excluding the fund balance and calculating the revenue. Primary revenue source is charges for services. That's the water bill every month, charging for water, sewer, and trash service. Primary expenditures is going to be debt service at about 1.2 million, followed by water and sewer. Sewer only accounts for 3 employees, which is historically how we've operated that, and water accounts for 8 employees. So that's why you get that skewed number there. Similar breakdown, only difference here is we start with 1.5, we end with 1.25. The reason for that, we have a couple of expenditures this year. It brings us down to 19% of fund balance for operating reserves. So we're still within the budgeting policy requirement of 14 to 20% operating reserve. Next steps on May 4th at the regular council meeting, we'll have the public hearing. It's an opportunity for the public to come up and provide any input that they would like. Certainly, they're also welcome to come by City Hall, to email me or council members, or schedule an appointment. And then at the regular meeting on June 1st, council is scheduled to adopt the budget. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I don't have any at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So no action on that. Moving on to number 17. Discussion, consideration, and possible action on road improvement project lists submittal to Muskogee Creek Nation National Department of Transportation. Jacob.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Let me shift gears real quick. At the special council meeting on March 27th, Michael Taylor, the city's engineer, presented on road improvements. Part of that, we talked about how the city can partner with Muskogee Creek Nation. There were a series of roads that we thought would be particularly good candidates for their mill and overlay program. Part of what we talked about was it is just a mill and overlay. They do about a 1-inch mill and a 2-inch overlay. So you can't tackle your really bad streets. You can tackle your somewhat bad streets and make them better. So we had to really find a pretty narrow scope of streets to work on. And so that's what we're proposing here on this list, but we're also going to keep looking to see if there's others that we can add on to it. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, could you just go over that?
Yes. So Foley Avenue, which turns into McKinley Avenue from 7th Street to Lakeshore Drive. So a good stretch, the whole length of it. And then 2nd Street from Selman Road to High Street. Then Indian Avenue from B Street to K Street. Simpson Street from Broadway Avenue to the dead end at the north. and then any additional road segments that we're able to identify. And in speaking with Muskogee Nation, their hope is to be able to begin some level of this work by this fall or early spring.
And we just need to approve that list with the amendment that we need to be able to also add to it as needed, or?
If council just approves this item, it would be sufficient.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I would make a motion to approve line item 17.
I second that motion.
Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
Counselor Felon.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes. All right, that passes. So we'll be adding those streets to Muskogee Creek Nation Department of Transportation. That's exciting. Number 18, discussion, consideration, and possible action on ordinance 26-04-01, fixing salaries for elected officials to $0 pursuant to section 2-407 of the Eufaula City Code. And line item number A, discussion, consideration. Okay, I'll do that here in a second. Mr. Jacob.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I always broach this subject every budget year, and this year it seemed like there was some interest from council. So this would fix the council's salary to $0. Currently, it's $53.50 for each regular meeting and $26.52 for each special meeting. It is very insignificant for their overall budget. It's only about $5,000 a year. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have no issue.
Something that we can do.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm happy to. It's a
Spend it
volunteer.
wisely.
I make the motion to approve.
A second.
Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
Counselor Felon.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes. That motion passes. And moving on to line item A, 18A, discussion, consideration, possible action to approve or disapprove emergency clause in ordinance 26-04-01. I make the motion to approve the emergency clause.
I second that.
Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
Counselor Felon.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes. Okay, that passes. All right, line item number 19. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
Counselor Felon.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes. Okay. Public Works. Yes, okay. Now moving on to the Eufaula Economic Development Authority meeting. Ms. Valerie, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Counselor Dobbs.
Here.
Counselor Felon.
Here.
Counselor Barton is absent. Vice Mayor Morgan.
Here.
And Mayor Baker.
Here. Okay. Moving on to line item number 2, discussion, consideration, and possible action on contract for economic development consulting services with Retail Attractions LLC and authorize the trust manager to sign. Mr. Jacob.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So this is an opportunity for the city to partner with Retail Attractions. This would augment what the Tourism and Economic Development Director currently does, utilizing Retail Attractions' unique connections with national and regional businesses. The agreement would be for a 36-month period, excuse me, for $35,000 per year. That's what I was getting to. It does come with the performance bonus of $1 per square foot for new retail space built, and so that's what triggers for it to come to council. This is especially helpful because there are just connections that it's difficult for people who work in a small community to make. And whereas Brent Kissling, who's going to come up and speak, has that ability to go out and make those connections for us. And it allows us to focus a little more on Eufaula, on helping our local businesses grow and expand, and on preparing our community to be the best it can for whenever they do have those companies coming and looking and having sites ready for them and whatnot. So with that, I'd ask Brent to come up and tell us a little more about his company.
Thank you, Mr. Foos, Mayor Hickman,
Yes.
council members. It's an absolute honor to be here this evening and to talk a little bit about retail attractions. I will admit right up front, I have known Jacob, I think, since he was 12. It felt like it whenever he was in Enid, and I did local economic development there. I had hair and he was younger. It was a different time back then, but we've known each other for a long time, and it is an absolute honor to be able to stand before you today and to be considered to work with you long term. I grew up just personally from the community of Burlington, which is a very small town up in Alfalfa County, up by Alva and Cherokee, town of 120 people, had 10 people in my graduating class. I have a passion for rural Oklahoma. That has always been my passion. And I had the opportunity for about 5 years to work for the state. I was the director of the Department of Commerce, and I stepped down from that role about 3 years ago. But during that time, whenever I was at Commerce, I recognized that there are three things that communities have to invest in order to grow. You have to invest in your education facilities. You have to have good education facilities and good schools. You have to have healthcare in some way in your area. And you have to have places for people to hang out and buy stuff. And a lot of communities are focused on education. A lot of communities are focused on healthcare, but very few, in my experience, have focused on places for people to hang out and buy stuff. That is part of our quality of life. That's why people enjoy living in an area. And so whenever I stepped down from Commerce, I've worked with a gentleman named Ricky Hayes, whom I had hired in Enid. Whenever I did local economic development up there, I started working with him and purchased his company of retail attractions. About a month ago, my wonderful wife, Jennifer, who came along this evening, left her job as marketing director for one of our teacher organizations in the state, and she is now our marketing director for retail attractions. So she helps us to assemble our marketing materials and works with you as well in order to help tell your story. But Retail Attractions is about a 20-year-old company. Like I say, Ricky Hayes started it up in Owasso, Oklahoma, and we operate today in 5 different states. We're still headquartered right here in Oklahoma. We work with about 20 communities right now, which gives me the opportunity, and Ricky as well, to have a very personal relationship with those communities. And then we have team members that run our data for us and of course help with marketing and some of the administrative functions. But that is our role. We want to bolt onto the side of the city, bolt onto the side of your economic development efforts, and be very laser focused on what we're doing. Another thing I've learned in economic development is you've got to be specialized. When I was at the Department of Commerce, we completely changed the way that we did recruitment as a state because we were recruiting aerospace companies with people who couldn't talk about airplanes. And we were trying to bring in automotive manufacturers with people that didn't know anything about automotive. It was the same thing about retail. You kind of got to speak that language about dollars per square foot and what's your ROI and what are people actually going to pay in rent and be able to talk that data market. And that's what we do every day. We are interacting with each of the retailers as well as the developers and trying to make sure that you are at the forefront of their mind. The process that we go through is fairly simple. What we will begin with is running your numbers. It's called a gap analysis. A lot of folks do those. We do a very deep, we pay a lot of money every year for a lot of data in order to find out exactly where you are leaking dollars. What are your residents leaving town to go purchase somewhere else? And then we figure out what type of retailers fill that gap. And it's different for every type of market. And then each one of those retailers has very specific sites that they've got to have. They got to have 125 feet of frontage, or they got to have a 5,000 square foot existing building that they can renovate, flat roof. Every one of them is a little bit different. And so we take the retailer, we figure out what the sites are, and then we start marketing the community. And we're very fortunate that if you vote in the affirmative this evening, we're starting at just the right time because the big international retail conference of the year happens next month in Las Vegas. And it'll be tens of thousands of people. Every retailer that you've ever thought of under the sun will be there, and we'll be able to be telling the story about Eufaula and start getting it in front of folks. I will tell you that it does take two things a lot of times in order to make these deals happen. One, it does take patience. One of the communities that we just started working with January 1st, I remember we started on January 1st. I went and spoke at their city council meeting on February 1st and got the question, why in the world don't we have anything that's moved into the community yet? And some of these things do take a while. We'll have to gather some relationships, but the fortunate thing is you've got some solid momentum right now with some big time national brands that are looking at your community. And so that makes it a whole lot better. But patience is important, and then partnerships sometimes are important. And we will be working with retailers and developers to see exactly what they need to get into this market. And I'll get to spend a lot of time with all of you to explain those processes and see if there's anything we need to do. Sometimes you just tell the story and it's good. But sometimes you got to partner in some way in order to bring them in, and we'll be prepared to work with you on that. The last thing the other thing that's important with bringing in the national brands is to remember we want to focus on our locals first. With any retail economy, you have got to have a mix of both. And the reason why national brands are good for the local brands is because whenever you're watching the Super Bowl or something like that, you're probably not going to see an ad for something local, but somebody 20 miles from here might see an ad of some product that is sold here in the community. And so it's part of increasing that trade area and closing some of those gaps. So we'll want to focus on both of those. But finally, I'll mention, why in the world do you even worry about these kind of things? Why do you focus on economic development? And I answer it this way. In about 3 weeks, my wife and I are expecting our first grandchild. And so we've actually got the phone sitting out in case she called, because it could happen any moment. But our daughter and her husband live in Edmond, Oklahoma. And we are so fortunate that there are opportunities here in Oklahoma for them to be here within the state. And that's why we do economic development. It's not so that you guys have more tax dollars to spend or somebody gets more money in their pocket. It's so there's more opportunities available for families to stay closer together. So I don't have to fly to Houston or Chicago or London to spoil grandkids someday. That's why we do it. So any questions that anybody might have?
Yes. So how many communities do you represent? Did you say 20?
It's about 20 right now.
Just across Oklahoma?
5 states. We're in Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Texas.
Okay. So, but you're originally from Oklahoma?
I'm from Burlington, live in
Burlington.
Enid right now.
Okay. You know, just my question is, you know, you say you're going to Las Vegas, you know, so when you go there and you represent 20 communities, you know, how can we say like Eufaula is just at the top right there that you represent?
Mm-hmm. No, that's an excellent question, but I'll answer it this way, because we'll have a meeting with like Yum Brands that'll represent a whole bunch of different quick serve restaurants. And there are some of their logos that are going to fit well in a community like Eufaula, where some of them will fit better with a Weatherford or a Ponca City or an Ada or Broken Bow, some of the others that we work with here within the community, within the state. And so it's like speed dating whenever you're in Vegas. It's so fast, but you're trying to get that information in front of them, trying to at least plant that seed for them so that you can follow up with them afterwards. Because retail attraction has changed so much since whenever I started 20, 30 years ago. Because it used to be that, Chick-fil-A would come to town and they would say, "Oh, this is great. This is a great site. I want to put a facility there." It's not the way it works nowadays. Now they decide we're going to do 30 stores in this region, and then it's a hungry hippos among the communities of trying to grab those 30 stores. And and it's some 25-year-old real estate person that you've got to be in front of that's going to be recommending that site to somebody on up the ladder. And if you don't stay in front of that person all the time, and we're sending them emails, we're calling them every week, just to stay at the forefront. Vegas is more for us to have that face-to-face time with them and put faces with names.
Okay. So you meet with multiple larger entities that represent multiple brands.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
And so I'm sure like you just driving around and working with our city manager, you have an idea of what you want to see. I'm sure.
I will. I'm spending tomorrow. We're actually staying here tonight and going to be driving around tomorrow to look at some of your sites. And I mean, I've got an idea in the back of my mind. The one thing I will never do up front is promise you that this person's coming to town or that person.
That's what I was hoping you would do. Just make
I know, because they change. I mean, like
business is in your pocket right now.
yes.
You know?
Well, even one of our communities the other day, we had a great deal put together with the Kohl's, and I mean, we got all the way to the end, and Kohl's was going to be the anchor on this multi-tenant development. And then Kohl's decides nationwide they're not going to build any more stores all of a sudden. And it was nothing that the community did or that anybody did. It was just market conditions for them and their supply chain. And so we had to pivot to change anchors. So those kind of things happen.
Gotcha.
People may not want Chick-fil-A one of these days. You just never know.
When you say you partner with local as well as national chains,
Mhm.
what does that look like? Like, what do you mean when you say local?
Yep. No, we like to help tell that story too. We've, with my background, being director of Department of Commerce, but I also used to be the director of USDA Rural Development. Between those two entities is a lot of your grant funding that comes to communities. In fact, I want to get Scott's card. At Department of Commerce, we approved the funding every year that went to the COGS, and would love to work with him a little bit because there's a lot of funding sources out there to assist with local businesses that are already here and already growing. Sometimes it's supply chain. We end up in supply chain discussions a lot with local retailers because they've lost a connection over here and needing to get another one. And then what I really love to do is work with local retailers on growth. If they've got something that they're wanting to try to do, I love the puzzle of trying to make that happen. How do you fill a capital gap? How do you get their lender to the point that they can say yes? Love those things.
You said
That's nice.
education too. Like, so do you work with like tech schools as well to try to bring that in?
For educational facilities, you mean?
I mean, I'm just saying like, is it just because you mentioned three things to
Yeah.
drive the community.
But I don't really focus on the healthcare and the education
Okay,
side. I'll assist.
I'm talking about just businesses like that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying as a community, those three things you got to make sure you got right.
Okay.
I'm trying to help you get the retail one right, the
Sure.
where to hang out and buy stuff. Now I do, and I'm if you vote yes, you own me. So whatever you want, but I'll assist your team in any way possible. Some of the communities right now, we are working on, all that new federal money that's coming through for rural healthcare facilities. We've been involved in that. I'm working on a housing project with one of our communities right now. We just did a grant for $1 million for the new fire station in Kingfisher. That was approved about a month ago. So things tend to bleed in and out of retail. With my background, I love doing it all, but retail's at our core.
Gotcha.
Have you, do you have other towns around this size or similar in demographics already under your?
Yep, I would say Crescent would be pretty close to your size. Ponca City would be a little bit bigger as well. We were working in Wilburton recently, and they're in a gap right now. Got some things going on, but Broken Bow would probably be similar.
Broken Bow is.
Garden City, Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys have them under contract as well?
Yes.
Broken Bow?
Yes, Broken Bow. we've been working with them for a very long time, and which kind of gets us into the Ho Chi Town
Right.
world as well. But
Yeah.
Broken Bow wants theirs and get theirs first. But then probably the most urban community that we work with is Glenpool.
Okay.
We work with Glenpool and Muskogee, but then like Garden City, Kansas, and Mays, Kansas, which is on the outskirts of Wichita.
Not Owasso, even your
Not-
house, not
No,
Owasso.
we don't work with Owasso. This happens sometimes, and Owasso is a great example where Owasso was the first community. Ricky, the one that started the company, he did economic development in Owasso. They did a big target project, and he kind of learned the business and worked with Owasso for a while. And then they wanted to be able to hire somebody full-time just to do retail for the community. And so that's why we don't work with a Tulsa or an Edmond or Oklahoma City, because most of them have somebody that does retail full-time for them.
How long have you guys been with Muskogee?
Oh, that's good. It was before me, so I'll bet it's been 10 years
'Cause
probably.
It's had some really good
Yeah.
growth there.
So you have
I mean,
Muskogee.
They've are on the cusp of some really big announcements. We kind of went through this lull. Again, your timing is really good because 2025, especially the first half, has nothing to do with politics necessarily, but just concern about supply chains and the tariff wars and that kind of thing really slowed down new development for retail. And then you get to the end of the summer, August and September of last year, and you had more LOIs, more letters of intent from retailers to developers than you'd had in a single month in like 6 years. It really took off at the end of last year. One thing we're seeing right now is that there's still not a lot of new construction. There's a lot of rehab that's happening, but that's even starting to come back as the price of money goes down and the price of construction. Hopefully that'll continue to go down. We'll see more of that new construction happen.
Well, I'm very excited.
Yeah, I am too.
I'm
Wait,
excited
I have
as
one
well.
more question.
Oh, lay it on me.
I think I know the answer to this, but just for the record, when you're looking at Eufaula's data, do you stay within the city limits? Or are you looking
Great
at
question.
the entire community?
Nope, that's a great question. We will, and I think it's in the contract, we will run a city limits report, which will be on our website, and we'll work with Jacob as well. We create it as a widget so you can put it onto your website if you want to, all of your information. But we'll run city limits. We'll run a 5-minute or a 5-mile radius, a 10-mile radius, and a 20-mile radius. But the 20-mile radius is the one we will use the most because that's the one retailers use.
Okay.
In this region, a 20-mile radius is probably the best indicator of your numbers. And retail is so data-driven. If you're trying to bring in a Ross's or something like that, they know exactly how many households they want within that 20-mile radius. They want the average household income to be north of $89,500. It'll be very specific, and they're going to want to see gaps of you all leave town to go buy women's clothing somewhere else. So they will want to see some very specific data, but the 20-mile is the big one that most of them use.
Well, I'm excited to have you on board. So
Mine too.
Thank you.
do I hear a motion?
That's great. I make a motion.
A second.
Make a
Motion
I make a
to-
motion to approve. Yes, thank you.
Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
Counselor Gully.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Mayor Hickman.
Yes. Okay. Guys, congratulations.
Thank you. I also had cards here. Got my cell phone number.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Please.
Yes,
call
thank you.
anytime.
Look forward to working with you.
Sir, thank you.
Very thankful, Mr. Jacob, for your consideration of that. I look forward to working with him. Line item number 3, discussion, consideration, possible action on budget amendment number 6. Mr. Jacob.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This is just to cover the expense of that agreement for the remainder of this budget year and a couple of small expenditures we had for the Economic Development Fund.
Make a motion to approve item 3.
And I will second that.
Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
Counselor Kelly.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, that item passes. Okay. Number 4, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second that.
Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
Counselor Kelly.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, we are adjourned. And now moving on to the Eufaula Public Works Authority. Miss Valerie, can we have a roll call of attendance, please?
Counselor Dobbs.
Here.
Counselor Kelly.
Here.
Counselor Barton is absent. Vice Mayor Morgan.
Here.
Mayor Hickman.
Here. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Number 2, approval of minutes. A, regular meeting March 2nd, 2026. Number 3, approval of January 2026 payroll figures for the Eufaula Public Works Authority in the amount of $46,603.07. And number 4, receipt of March 2026 claims, Eufaula Public Works Authority. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
Counselor Kelly.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, moving on to the individual items. Number 5, discussion, consideration, and possible action on the purchase of Neptune meters through the sole source provider Core and Main in the amount not to exceed $55,000 from the Eufaula Public Works Authority Fund. Mr. Jacob.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Back in January, staff purchased approximately 110 meters at a cost of just under $36,000. Those meters were installed and have successfully gone through 2 billing cycles, so we're happy with them. The meters that we currently have are slowly reaching the end of their lifespan, and so it's time that we start replacing them as we go. So this allows us to continue that process and replace another 173 meters. Because it's over the $50,000 limit, we're bringing it to the council for consideration. Happy to answer any questions.
So this is just pretty routine as far as needing meters to purchase.
Yes.
So this is helping us to clear up those meters that were not working for us. And
Correct.
and are we still working off of the list that you have for the most meters that were not operational or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We started with commercial meters because those are likely going to be the higher volume users. Generally, when a meter has aged too much, has reached its lifespan, it means it's not going to read. So they're going to get the minimum bill. And so this allows for proper billing like it should be.
Have you noticed an increase in water usage rate or amounts since you've switched over these 110 meters?
Yes, but for the ones that have been replaced, yes. Mhm.
So, and how many meters will this 55,000?
173 meters,
173.
How many
yes.
do we need?
Total, we have 1,800 meters on the system.
Okay.
So it's a
Keep it
slow
away.
process. Currently, we need about 800 that are really reaching their end. But we can reasonably replace these 173 over the next 3 months for this budget year, and then we can reassess things. So
I make the motion to approve.
I second that motion.
Counselor Dobbs.
yes.
Counselor Kelly.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
There we go.
I will second.
Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
Counselor Kelly.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Yes, and we are adjourned.